Paul Graham from OptimalBody.ca. Today I'm going to give you a free 5-step plan for losing weight. What I'm giving you today is a weight loss guide for women. If you don't want to listen to the video version of this because it's pretty long, I'm going to have a transcript created and turned into an article or a PDF file. I'll have a link below in the description. If you're finding this video helpful, please click the like button, subscribe to our channel for tons of other free resources, and share this video to help more people. The reason I decided to give this away for free is because I've been seeing this trend. I've been doing this for 14 years almost full-time now. And there's constantly new, exciting diets for people to try out or programs. So you see right now, keto is really popular. A few years before that, paleo was all the rage, and then gluten-free and wheat belly. And there's always something new coming up. And what happens is most people are completely stuck in neutral, and they can't seem to get any traction and get towards their weight loss goal. And what happens is shiny object syndrome. So as soon as there's a new diet or a new plan or a new product that becomes trendy out, everybody gets distracted by that. And what inevitably happens is people aren't actually making genuine change to their nutrition, to their lifestyle. This leads to people constantly gaining weight, losing weight. And what I've found over the years is that a lot of people have gained weight and lost weight so many times, they start feeling completely frustrated. They start feeling less self-confidence about themselves because they can't seem to actually get anywhere. One of the most common things we hear from people who are looking to lose weight is, I know exactly what to do, I just can't seem to do it. Or people are left feeling like their metabolism or their hormones or their age or all these other factors out of their control is making it so they can't lose weight. What I'm going to do today is walk you through a 5-step plan to losing weight that is incredibly simple to implement. It doesn't have any crazy fads or gimmicks to it. We're not going to make carbs bad or fats bad or protein bad or any group of foods bad. Instead, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to lose weight for free. So you don't need to go out and get any new gimmicks. You don't need to go out and get any new fad diet. You don't need to jump on the next bandwagon when something else comes around the corner. You're going to know exactly how to figure out how to lose weight for you in your individual body by the end of this. So if you're looking at the length of the video, this is going to be one of the longest videos I ever do because I'm going to cover everything you need to know. Most people will already have checked out. Or a lot of people will look at the length of the video and be like, forget about it, that's way too long. This is an indicator that maybe you might not be at a point where you're actually ready to make this change. Because if investing 20-30 minutes of your time right now seems like too much, that's the reality is losing weight is really hard work. The weight loss industry will often try to convince you it's easy. Don't worry. You'll make a couple little changes, you'll start eating a little bit healthier, you'll start moving, and you're going to lose all this weight. In my experience, it is hard work for every single person. Over the last 14 years I've seen who's lost weight, they're putting tons of effort and time into it. That might not be what you want to hear. A lot of our society wants easy. Earlier I said I was going to walk you through a simple 5-step plan to losing weight. Simple and easy aren't the same thing. All the things I'll walk you through are really simple. It doesn't mean they're easy to implement in your day-to-day life. So what I want you to do is ask yourself, are you actually ready to change who you are, how you're living your lifestyle, the choices you're making? If you're not, you can keep searching for a new fad, new gimmick, keep hopping on different bandwagons. If you're genuinely at a point where you're ready to take responsibility for figuring out how to make this work in your day-to-day life, everything I'm going to share with you, you can lose as much weight as you want. You just need to keep implementing it and following through on the different steps I have that are going to teach you how to adjust things to continue getting results. So what am I going to cover in this 5-step plan to losing weight? Step number 1, I'm going to explain how to go about a starting point for portion control based on what you're eating to lose weight. Step number 2, I'm going to show you exactly how to tweak that portion control to work for your body and how to continually tweak that so you'll continue getting results and won't hit long plateaus. Step number 3 on our plan for losing weight, I'm going to explain to you how to go about indulging so that you can continue enjoying all your favorite foods while still getting results. Step number 4 on the weight loss plan, I'm going to explain to you the types of workouts you need to be doing to get the most results. I'm going to direct you to resources that'll actually show you workouts you can perform right from home to get the best results for weight loss. Step number 5, I'm going to go through and explain, well, what do you need to do if you want to speed up results? Or if you're starting to hit a plateau and you need to make adjustments, how do you go about doing that? Also, within this step, I'm going to go through common problems that are stopping people from losing weight. So I'm able to give you all this for free because I'm not worried about giving you some secret to losing weight. That's your first big indicator that someone has a gimmick or a fad to sell you on weight loss if they won't tell you how to eat or what their secret is for a person losing weight. So our clients who are paying us, they're paying us either to come in to our studio and work with us and for us to design them a program, or clients who are paying us for nutrition coaching, they're paying us for coaching them individually and keeping them accountable. I'm going to cover everything you need to know. There's no secret I'm going to be holding back in terms of what to do to lose weight today. If you have any questions as we go through any of this, you can comment down below and I'll be happy to answer any questions. So if anything's not making sense, just comment below. Or if you're starting to try to implement these things and they're not working, comment below and I'll help you out with that. So first up, before we get into the steps, it's really important to understand because a lot of people are losing sight of this basic weight loss principle. To lose weight, you have to burn out more energy than you're consuming. This is called getting into an energy deficit, or some people call it a calorie deficit. In recent years, the pendulum's kind of swung away from that, and people think, oh, if I just eat healthy, then I'll lose weight. And media sells you on this idea. You can eat healthy and not lose any weight. I see clients do it all the time. What you need to do is learn how to eat in a way that you're getting into an energy deficit and eating healthy. Eating healthy and eating to lose weight or eating to change your body composition are two different things. In our plan today, we're going to get those two things to overlap. So you're eating healthy and you're eating to lose weight. If you're not sure how to do those differently, there's a good indicator as to why you're struggling with weight loss. So I'm going to take care of you and explain all of this, but it's really important to understand that. You need to learn how to get into an energy deficit. Every diet, every program out there, they're getting you into an energy deficit. Even if they tell you they're not, they're just doing different tricks to get you there. For example, the paleo diet, it gets you eating largely whole foods and taking out certain energy-dense foods. The keto diet, it gets you taking out carbohydrates, which takes out that source of energy. Certain programs get you to count calories or points, and that's how they do it. So I'm going to walk you through a way to control how much food you're taking in without having to obsess over counting calories or counting points or taking out entire groups of food. One of the biggest things the weight loss industry has sold you on is that certain foods are bad and you need to take them out if you want to get results, or certain foods will cause you to gain weight. It's all about figuring out how to manage these and find moderation. When it comes to losing weight, the most important factor is consistency. What are you consistently doing in terms of your actions of choices with your nutrition, exercise, your lifestyle? A lot of people get focused in on trying to do far too complicated and hard of tasks that they're not ready to take on yet, which creates issues with their consistency. What works best for most people is to start with smaller things, get good at those, consistently implement them in their day-to-day life, and then start building off of that. Step number 1 of our 5-step plan for losing weight. Starting point for portion control. So we've established you need to get into an energy deficit. So we need to control how many calories are coming in. There's lots of different ways to go about doing this. I'm going to walk you through a simple strategy that helps you to find moderation. So what we do is we break foods down into specific categories. So every food you eat, we want to fit it into one of these categories. Certain foods might not fit perfectly into the categories, but you need to fit every single thing you're putting into your mouth, food or beverage, into one of these categories. We're going to go through them one by one, and I'll explain what fits into each category. Really important, when I'm explaining these categories, people often will tune out and be like, I already know that. The way we categorize food is different than the way other people categorize these foods. So it's really important because I'm going to break down how to start with portion sizes around each of these. So first up, lean proteins. So I'm going to use hand sizes to help you break down portions, but I'm also going to give you other ways to break down those portions. Females, about 1 palm size of lean protein, we'd call a serving. Most females are going to want to get between 4 to 6 servings of lean protein in a day. When I say a palm size serving of protein, I mean a palm three-dimensionally, so the circumference around as well as the thickness of the palm. What are your sources of lean proteins? As you can see from the graphic on the video, your lean protein are sources of lean meat or fish. So these are things like extra lean ground beef, lean cuts of pork, game meat. You could also have lean steaks that don't have the fat marbled around them. Chicken, turkey, again, leaner sources of these or draining the fat off of these. Fish or seafood. Additionally, you have certain types of dairy such as Greek yogurt, Skyr yogurt, cottage cheese, or milk. You have vegetable sources such as beans, lentils, or chickpeas. You have protein powder, and you have eggs. So these are your sources of lean protein. I've outlined on the screen on the infographic, in addition to a palm size, some people have a hard time understanding, well, what exactly would a palm size look like? So I've also broken down for you the range of where that's going to be. Obviously, a palm size is different for everybody because you have different size hand. And this is where this is a good starting point to help starting the individualized process in terms of how much food you need. I'll touch more on this later in the video in terms of how to really tweak this based on what you're experiencing. Other types of measurements to help them out with the portion sizes. So you can see up on the screen again, different portion sizes for each one, what about a palm size serving would be. All right, so some people prefer to use grams in terms of looking at serving size. So for a serving of protein, you'd be looking at anywhere between 15 to 30 grams of protein. Lean protein is incredibly key to losing weight because it's going to help to do a few different things. First, it's going to help to keep you satisfied on less calories. This is obviously really important in helping to create that energy deficit so you start losing weight. Second, it's going to help to get your metabolism up. So every food requires a certain amount of energy to digest and metabolize. Protein requires more than fats and carbohydrates. So this is going to help to get that metabolism up a little bit. Third, it will help you to build more lean muscle. Later in the video, when I go through types of exercises or workouts to be doing for weight loss, lean protein is going to be really important to helping to build more lean muscle, which is going to help to keep your metabolism up. A lot of people don't realize the number one factor why people's metabolism slows as they age is due to decrease in muscle mass. So we want to try to keep as much muscle as we can. It's been my experience that almost all of our females don't get enough lean protein, or at least not consistently doing it throughout the day. It's also really important with protein to be consistently getting it throughout the day at all your different meals. Throughout this video, when I say meals, it's important to understand I don't just mean breakfast, lunch, and supper. If I say meal, I mean any time you're eating and putting anything into your mouth. It's a helpful tool we found with clients that they start looking at meals as being every single time they eat. So hopefully they start putting together complete meals. So every time you're eating more of a complete meal. So back to protein. So it's important to be getting protein consistently throughout the day because this is going to help to keep you satisfied throughout the day and help to prevent overeating. As well, the way your body metabolizes protein, you want to get a consistent flow steadily throughout the day. Ideally, you want to get whole food sources of protein as much as you can. We'll talk more about whole foods a little bit later. So we've covered lean protein. Next up is going to be vegetables. So we want you to get about a fist-sized serving of vegetables. Fist being three-dimensional, so the entire volume of the fist. With the fist-sized serving of vegetables, most females who are looking to lose weight are going to deal best with 3 to 6 servings per day. The more challenges you're having with losing weight, you want to probably be in the higher end of that 3 to 6 range. As you can see on the infographic, I have a list of a bunch of different vegetables. These are just a few examples. There's two main exceptions that we wouldn't include in the vegetable category: white potatoes and sweet potatoes. Those are going to come up in our carbohydrates category later. Other than that, though, we keep it really simple. Anything else that you think is a vegetable is probably going to fit in there. A lot of times we've had people that are coming from previously doing low carb diets, and they're like, oh, what about squash or carrots? Those have lots of sugar. No, they're okay. Put them into the vegetable category. Get a fist-sized serving of those. One common mistake we see frequently with people trying to lose weight around vegetables is a lot of people are having tons of salads all the time. There's nothing wrong with salad, obviously. That can be a great part of your diet. But a lot of people feel like they need to eat salads all the time. We found most of our clients that have gotten the best results tend to eat a lot of different vegetables. So they're integrating in things like broccoli and cauliflower and carrots and squashes and zucchini and cucumbers and all these different other types of vegetables, not just salads all the time. Practically speaking, I found that most clients find it easier to stay satisfied on other types of vegetables as opposed to always having salads. Again, work in salads into your diet. They're great, but just don't feel like you should be having salads at every single meal. Work in lots of variety and a lot of different types of vegetables into your diet. Our next category we have is healthy fats. Obviously, sometimes you're going to be getting fats that aren't necessarily the healthiest sources. You'd still want to try to get the proper serving size on these, but as frequently as you can, you want to try to get healthy fats. So with our healthy fats, you want to get a thumb-sized serving. Again, three-dimensional, both the thickness, the width, and the height of the thumb. Healthy fats include nuts, seeds, cheese, nut butters, cooking oils, a lot of dressings or sauces or dips fall into this category, and other condiments. So for example, things like hummus or salad dressing. If you're looking at using grams to measure fats for a serving size, you'd be looking at anywhere from 7 to 15 grams of fat. So it's really important to make sure with fats you're getting the proper serving size. Most females are going to do best with 3 to 6 servings in a day. With the keto diet, as well as the Mediterranean diet having been popular over the last few years, we found a lot of clients coming in feel like as long as they're having healthy sources of fats, it's not a problem. You still need to watch portion sizes. Again, like I said earlier, there's a difference between eating healthy and eating to lose weight. Even if you're getting healthy fats, that can still be enough energy coming in to put you into an energy surplus or put you into an energy balance and stopping you from getting into that energy deficit and losing weight. So be very careful with portion sizes. It's common for us to get clients who are using the proper thumb-sized portion of healthy fats, but then in a meal, they have several different sources coming in. So for example, they're preparing supper and they put some olive oil in the proper serving size, maybe 2 teaspoons, let's say, into a stir fry, and they stir fry some vegetables. And they're like, okay, good, I have some healthy fats there. But then they also use a little bit of cooking oil to prepare their meat. Oh, well, there's another healthy fat, but in a serving size. Then maybe they have a small side salad as a starter, and they have a little bit of shredded cheese on that, and they have some dressing on that. Well, there's a couple more serving sizes. So all of a sudden in this one meal, they have 4 servings of healthy fats, which if they're shooting for 3 to 6 in a day, there's a high chance that they're going to be going over that amount for the total that they're having throughout that day. This can easily start to push a person out of that energy deficit. It's also really important to note, especially with oils, they're very calorie dense, so you have to be really careful with that. A lot of people find it helpful to start using measuring spoons to actually measure out how much cooking oil they're using or other types of oil on dressings or salads or things like this. Finally, we have what we call smart carbs. Again, sometimes not all your carbohydrates are going to be smart carbs. They might be more processed versions of carbs. So the way we explain this to people is to think of these as being a spectrum. So on one end of the spectrum, you have whole food sources of carbohydrates, which are going to be your best options. So these would be things like fruits, which have natural sugars, or white potatoes or sweet potatoes, which have natural starches in them. Then you can move up the spectrum towards minimally processed carbohydrates. These would be things like whole wheat pasta or sprouted whole grain breads. And then as we move farther up the spectrum, you have things like brown breads or rye breads or things like that. And then as you move even farther up the spectrum towards highly processed, you have things like white pasta and white bread. So you want to get as much of your carbohydrates from the smart carb end of the spectrum, which is more whole food sources or very minimally processed. So for smart carbs and for carbs, you want a serving size for a female of 1 scooped out handful. Again, we have different measurements on the screen, as you can see if you're not quite sure what a scooped out handful is looking like. If you were looking to use grams for a serving size for carbohydrates, you'd be looking at getting anywhere from 15 to 30 grams in a serving. So in recent years, carbs have gotten a bad rap in terms of they're bad, they cause you to gain weight. They aren't bad. The thing that causes you to gain weight is being in an energy surplus, which you can do with any type of food. You can do it with alcohol, you can do it with carbohydrates, you can do it with fats, you can do it with protein. Most people do it with a combination of a whole bunch of these things. The most important thing with carbs is to try to get whole food sources, like I was saying, as much as possible, and serving size. And again, being aware, just like fats, of how many servings you're getting throughout the day. So there we have your starting point for how much food to be eating. So to review, you have 4 to 6 palm-sized servings of lean proteins in a day. You have 3 to 6 fist-sized servings of veggies in a day. You have 3 to 6 thumb-sized servings of healthy fats in a day, and 3 to 6 scooped-out handfuls of smart carbs in a day. So understand, when I'm giving you these ranges, this is simply a starting point. Later in step 2, I'm going to teach you how to adjust this up or down based on what you're experiencing so that you're losing weight and getting the results you want. So I noted earlier, you need to fit every food into one of these categories for portion sizes. Well, what happens if you're not sure where food fits into this category? Well, you want to fit it in somewhere. So for example, let's say you want to have a glass of wine. Well, that's not really a carbohydrate, that's not really a fat, it's not a protein, it's definitely not a vegetable. So where does it fit in there? The most important thing is you're controlling calories and how much is coming in. With alcohol, we found it works best for most females if they're including that under the carbohydrates category. They would count 1 5-ounce glass of wine as a scooped out handful of carbohydrates. Really important to note though, with serving sizes, a glass of wine isn't a serving size. It's 5 ounces of wine. We've had clients actually go home and measure their wine glasses. Most of them are having at least 7 to 8 ounces in their wine glass. Some of them even have more. So it's really important to understand that when you're looking at serving sizes. Well, what about other foods? Obviously, I can't go through every single food in this video, or else this video just wouldn't end. But what you can do is look at the numbers on the side of the container of the food, or go to Google if you don't have the numbers on the side of the container, and figure out, well, what's it really high in? And so I gave you ranges of grams of carbohydrates or fats for the serving size. So look and see, well, what category does it fall into? A lot of processed foods will often fall into multiple categories. So it's not uncommon. For example, ice cream, if you had a 1/2 cup serving size of most brands of ice cream, or a lot of brands of ice cream, you would wind up getting both a serving size of fats and a serving size of carbs. So that would count of 1 of each. If you're confused at all about specific foods, simply comment down below and I'll be happy to help you figure that out and get that sorted. But the really important take home is to make sure you're putting everything into these different categories. You can't have something else just being extra on top of that. For example, oftentimes people will be having sugar and cream in their coffee. And they're like, oh, well, it's just a sugar and a cream. It's no big deal. But that's still calories coming in. So you need to think, well, what categories does that fall into? At first, it takes a little bit of work to start figuring out how to get these all categorized. Eventually, you start being able to keep track of these pretty quickly and pretty easily. One final note on this step is whole foods. It's really important to try to get as much of what you eat from whole foods as possible. There's been research done, and it requires more energy to digest and metabolize whole foods compared to processed foods. Also, generally speaking, it's much easier to get satisfied on whole foods as opposed to processed foods. I can tell you the vast majority of our clients think they're getting far more whole foods than they actually are. Step number 2 on our plan for losing weight. So next up, we have our next step of portion control. So how do you actually adjust this to get what your individual body needs? So hopefully you can get a feel from our different portion sizes that you can have carbohydrates, you can have fats, you can have protein. All these different things are good. We use a few different strategies to further help someone control how much food is coming in based on their own individual body. What we want to start doing is having you actually dial in and start to trust your body. Your body's actually going to guide you towards proper portion control if you're paying attention. This is a bit of a learning process, but the good thing is once you learn how to do it, you're going to be able to use these skills for the rest of your life. Most people use portion control systems such as counting calories or eliminating groups of food that they're never going to be able to sustain. The ones I'm about to teach you, you can use these anywhere at any time. So you can be on vacation in the Bahamas. You could use these strategies. You could be at your favorite restaurant and still use these strategies. You could be at Christmas dinner. You could be in your lunchroom. You could be in a board meeting where you have no control over the food, and you can use these at any point in time. And that's why these are so powerful, is because you're actually learning how to work with your body. This can be scary for a lot of people at first because they don't have trust in their own body. It's something that takes time. And it's not a quick fix like that where it's going to solve everything. It's going to be a skill that will get better with time and practice. So we're going to use how you're eating to help control portion sizes. So first up is eating slowly. Most people be quick to brush this off and be like, yeah, I know. Like I was saying earlier, I'm going to walk you through simple things. Simple things done consistently are going to be incredibly effective, but you need to do them consistently and you need to get good at them. When you're eating slowly, it's not just about how much time it takes to eat, it's also about mentally slowing down. You need to slow down mentally and pay attention to the taste of your food. Pay attention to the texture of your food. Pay attention to the smell of your food. You need to engage in eating. I'm not going to go into all the details around this, but there's actually a lot of scientific reasons why this is important. There's a bunch of different things going on physiologically when you slow down, for example, and smell your food, that impacts what chemicals are getting released to keep you satisfied. Most people are eating so quickly it's throwing off these normal physiological regulations to help regulate how much food's coming in. So by slowing down, you will actually be able to eat less food. And this isn't just a concept. They've gone out and studied this. And there's actual research to back this up. I should note with this, a lot of clients, when we first start working on this, they'll be uncomfortable doing this. Most people are used to eating so quickly. Try to slow down, get rid of any distractions. A good thing that helps a lot of people to really slow down and dial in, get rid of any screens. So no computers, no phones, no TV. Actually engage in eating. So that's the first step. The second part that goes along with this is eating to 80% full. I have another video that covers this in depth. I'll have that pop up above my head. The idea is to start to figure out physically what 80% feels like. Most people, again, are like, oh yeah, I already know that. But it's not about what you know in terms of information. It's about knowing how to implement this in your day-to-day life. Most people, where they think 80% full is oftentimes actually where 100% full is. A lot of people are eating to 110 or 120% full and don't even realize it. A real quick idea in terms of what this feels like, you shouldn't feel full in your stomach. If you're feeling full or satisfied in your stomach, then you're hitting well past 100%. You should feel full mentally. This is something that's going to take some practice. Again, usually most of our clients, when we start working with them on this, within 2 weeks, they're like, yeah, I think I have it down. And then often about 6 months later, they're like, oh, I'm starting to really get it now. I didn't have it down. So although it's a simple concept, it's not easy. This is something that takes practice. If you're looking for more information, follow that video and I'll walk you through exactly how to do this. Third step in adjusting how much you're eating, getting proper hunger levels. I found most people that are dieting or trying to lose weight fall under two different categories. One is the constant grazer. So they're always grazing, so they're never really hungry. Often they think they're hungry, but they're in a state of wanting to eat. I'll touch more on this in a second. The second category is I'm starving all the time. We don't want either one of these. What we want you to do is eat to 80% full, and then in the coming hours after you eat, your hunger levels are slowly going to increase. We want you to keep going until you're really good and hungry. This is stomach grumbling, I need to get a good solid meal into me levels of hunger. If you wait too long, you'll get overly hungry. This is where you start seeing changes in your mood. You start feeling physically shaky. Once you do eat, you can't seem to stop eating. You need to eat and eat and eat to get satisfied. One of the most common issues we see with females who are trying to lose weight is that they undereat at their meals. They're not getting good solid meals. Earlier I said we need to get into that energy deficit. And oftentimes what happens is, especially females, they tend to shrink their meals down way too small to try to lose weight. Again, going back to our portion sizes earlier, a lot of females, when we go through showing them, here's what a palm size of protein is, here's what a fist of veggies is, here's a thumb of healthy fats, here's a scooped out handful of smart carbs, and they look at that plate, they're like, that's a lot of food. I could never eat that much and lose weight. But again, you want to nourish your body. There's a huge difference between getting a large volume of food, so it takes up a lot of the plate, versus getting a large amount of calories of food. We want to get a large volume of food with less calories to help keep you satisfied, but still get into that energy deficit. So you want to make sure you're getting really good and hungry where your stomach's grumbling every single time you have a meal. And again, a meal is any time you eat. So every single time you're eating, you want to try to make sure you're getting really good and hungry, stomach grumbling hungry. And again, this takes playing around. In terms of meal frequency, people often ask, well, how many times? Should I eat every 2 to 3 hours? I would suggest not eating every 2 to 3 hours. It makes it really hard to regulate how much food you're consuming. I would suggest waiting at least 3 to 4 hours in between each time you're eating. A lot of people we've found deal well with just having 3 square meals a day, no snacks in between. It helps them to get into a routine of having lots of food to nourish them because they get really good and hungry with those 3 square meals. And it helps them to regulate how much food they're having because they're just eating 3 times a day. The more frequently you eat, the harder it is to get those hunger levels right. But anything can work. You can have anywhere from 2 to 6 meals in a day and have that work fine. You have to figure out what's going to work best with your schedule, but make sure you're eating to 80% full each time you're eating and getting proper hunger levels and eating slowly. So this combined with our portion sizes earlier is how you're going to start regulating how much food you're consuming. Really important. Getting really good and hungry every time you eat. Oftentimes people, when they're indulging, they'll have that in addition to all their other meals instead of making sure they're actually hungry when they're indulging in more calorie-dense foods, things like chocolate and chips and pizza and wine. So make sure you're really good and hungry every single time you're eating. And eat to 80% full every time you're eating. So earlier, when we had those ranges in terms of 4 to 6 servings of protein or 3 to 6 servings of the other categories of food, you adjust up or down based on eating to 80% full, based on getting proper hunger levels. Most people, when they're adjusting how much food they're having, they make too big of adjustments. So for example, let's say you were having lunch and you had a palm-sized serving of protein, a fist of veggies, a thumb of fats, and a scooped out handful of carbohydrates. Then let's say your next meal is supper and you weren't hungry by the time that rolled around. What you would do is just reduce how much you're eating by just a few bites. So the next time, have those same portion sizes, but leave 2 to 4 bites on your plate. See what happens. If you get really good and hungry, try adjusting it down the next day even a little bit more. You want to play around and see where's that point where I'm really good and hungry but not getting too hungry. You even want to play around and see, oh, here's the amount of food I eat and I get too hungry. Then adjust it back up just 1 or 2 bites until you find that sweet spot. And what you want to do is start doing this with each meal. And again, this takes practice. This takes time. But it's a lot easier to do this for not just days, not just weeks, but months and years. As you start losing weight and you start getting results, you're going to have to continue to change and adjust this. What gets you results for the first, let's say 15, 20, 25, 30 pounds won't necessarily continue getting you results. Oftentimes people think, oh, nothing works now. What I was doing before isn't working. Well, it's not that it's not working and it means there's a big problem. You just need to make adjustments. Again, start making small tweaks. Readjust. Are you still getting proper hunger levels? Are you still eating to 80% full? Because as you lose weight, your metabolism starts to slow down. Happens to everybody. That's part of the normal process of losing weight. So oftentimes you'll need to continue to adjust this as you're getting results. Step number 3 on our plan for losing weight is indulging. So most people go in with a game plan when they're trying to lose weight that they're going to take all of these foods out of their diets. And so I'm sure you've probably done this before where you're like, I'm not going to have any alcohol, I'm not going to have any sugar, I'm not going to have any chips or chocolate or any of these foods that you love indulging in. What inevitably happens? So you follow through on not eating those foods for a while, then your desire to eat those foods begins to accumulate and get higher and higher and higher, and you have some of those foods. Then you feel like you've ruined everything, you've gone off your diet, and then you have a whole bunch of these foods because you've accumulated this strong desire or pull towards the foods from completely eliminating them. The way to think about this is any changes you're making to lose weight, are you going to actually be able to keep making those changes for the next 12 months, 24 months, 5 years, 10 years? And if you're struggling to believe that you're actually going to be able to follow through on those things, you want to change your game plan. Because most people have this false idea that, oh, I'm going to make a few changes, I'm going to lose weight, and then I can go back to kind of finding a middle ground in between those two things. Instead, what I recommend you do is learn how to indulge in a way while still controlling your body composition. So while you're losing weight, figuring out, well, how do I indulge and still be able to do that? Again, this is a skill, and it's going to take time to build up and learn how to do this. So in this section, I'm going to go through and explain some of the basics in terms of how do you indulge and still lose weight. First thing, one of the biggest traps people get into is they look at foods in terms of good foods and bad foods. And so people oftentimes just take this simplistic black or white approach. And so what happens is when they're indulging in their favorite foods, whether that's pizza or chips or chocolate or alcohol or whatever it is, there's oftentimes a feeling of guilt that goes along with that. When people are feeling these feelings of guilt, they'll wind up eating these foods and then usually wind up feeling horrible. So then they eat more of these foods because they have that mental picture, like I was saying earlier, that they've ruined everything. So you need to stop going through this mental process if you want to be able to learn how to indulge and still be able to reach your goals in terms of body composition. So when you're indulging, you want to take your time, still eat slowly, like we covered earlier in this video, still eat to 80% full. Think about this for a second. Most people, the foods that they enjoy the most, they consume them the quickest. So they put a bowl of ice cream down and then they finish it up really fast. If you really enjoy that food, wouldn't you want to slow down, take your time, really enjoy the taste, really enjoy the texture, enjoy the experience of eating that food? In my experience, one of the biggest reasons people struggle to be able to control themselves around these foods is they eat them so quickly that they don't get the mental satisfaction they're looking for. We found time after time when clients can actually slow down when they're eating these foods, they actually get satisfied and they start gaining control around these foods. The next thing, this is a much larger topic, but I'm going to leave it at that for today. We have other resources on our YouTube channel to help around those types of challenges. Next, you want to actually integrate in indulging as part of your plan. So instead of it being something that happens when you get off track, think of it as being part of your diet, part of your nutrition, part of how you're living your lifestyle. What you want to do is start getting an idea of how much food you're actually consuming. Most people severely underestimate how many calories they have coming in. So the most common thing we see is people do great Monday through Friday, and then on the weekend they're like, well, I did great all week, I'm going to indulge a little bit. But then they're not paying attention to how much they're actually indulging. So this is one thing that can be really helpful is Just even in your meals where you're indulging, keep a mental track of everything you're consuming and go and look and see how many calories are you taking in. So once you have a rough idea, it gives you a picture of kind of, well, how much food am I actually consuming? For example, if you're eating out at a restaurant, it's not uncommon for people to eat 1,500 to well over 3,000 calories in one sitting. Even if they think they're making pretty good choices, this number can total up very quickly. So how do you work this into your game plan? Well, again, going back to earlier in the video where we were covering portion sizes. So we talked about working everything into a category of food. So does it fit into a serving size of fats or carbs or protein or vegetables? So do the same thing with indulging. Incorporate that into your total for the day. So look at, okay, how many servings of carbohydrates am I getting when I'm indulging? How many servings of fats am I getting? Can you work that into your game plan throughout the day? A lot of the times at first, because people are eating so quickly through the foods that they're indulging in, they're getting far too many servings. This is again where, can't stress it enough, slowing down, eating to 80% full, and really trying to enjoy yourself when you're having them can be a real key. Try to look at it in terms of saying yes to some things and saying no to others. So really stop and identify, what are the things you really want to indulge in? What are the things that are going to give you the most mental and physical satisfaction? Odds are you probably indulge in certain things that are just okay, or you don't even necessarily like that much, but you have them just because they're there. So then inevitably at some point you're going to get off track. That's part of the process. A lot of times people think once they start losing weight, they're going to get things on track, and then that's that, they're going to stay on track. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. I've never worked with one person who doesn't get off track. The biggest difference with getting off track is how the person experiences that. The choices they make after they've gotten off track. People who struggle with getting off track tend to be what we call problem focused. Well, the people that do really well after they've gotten off track tend to be what we call solution focused. So problem focused, what that looks like with getting off track, let's say you overindulge, usually the person will be feeling really guilty about that, and so then they continue making poor decisions for the next day or 2 days or week or few weeks. Whereas the person who's solution focused, they tend to take responsibility and say, you know what, I made some poor choices, but then they cut themselves a break and they say, that's okay, that's part of the process. What's my next step? And so they immediately get into, what are the next things I have to do? If you went a little bit off track, just get back to the habits that you're doing previously and things will continue progressing. If you got off track quite a bit and you had a big surplus of calories coming in, you might want to make some adjustments in the days to come. So I have a separate video that'll pop up above my head. It's going to talk about in terms of what types of adjustments can you be making and how to go about doing those if you overindulge. So I'm going to go through a few basic strategies that really help most people with indulging. First thing is try not to keep indulgent foods in the house. Instead, when you actually want to indulge as part of your plan, go out and buy those foods and try to buy them in serving size containers. What happens is people oftentimes buy these foods in large bulk because they're like, oh, I'm going to save money. But then inevitably, if the food's in your house, you will tend to eat it. So one of the best strategies is to not keep the food in your house until you're ready to indulge in it, then go out and buy it. The next concept I'm just going to touch briefly on. I'm going to have a separate video that is going to expand on it more. And so this is a concept that I learned called red light, yellow light, green light foods. And so identify which foods are a red light food for you. So these are ones that you don't have control around. And so for a lot of people, it's best to not eat red light foods because you genuinely have no control. Then there's yellow light foods where sometimes you might lose control around those foods, but other times you can eat them more moderately and enjoy them. And then green light foods, which are foods you want to incorporate into your diet on a consistent basis because they have you feeling your best, they have you looking your best, they work really well for you. I won't expand too much on this right now. I'll have the separate video pop up above my head that will help to walk you through that process. All right, we're on to step number 4 on your plan to lose weight. So with this one, we're going to talk a bit about exercise. So the most important thing with exercise that people often get wrong, consistency. I can't stress this enough. The most important thing is what exercises are you going to consistently do? Often people start putting themselves through workouts that they can't stand. They find the workouts far too hard, far too grueling. They're sore all the time, which they don't like. That's not going to lead to consistency. The way I always explain this to clients, think for a second. If I designed you the greatest exercise program of all time that would have you lose the most body fat humanly possible, and I was like, here's your program for the next year. You went out, you performed that workout once a week or once every 2 weeks for the next year. Flip that. Let's pretend you went and walked 20 to 30 minutes every single day for the next year. Which one's going to produce better results? It's going to be the walking, because you're consistently doing it. So all the information I'm about to share in terms of what are the best exercises or workouts or what type of workouts to focus on, premise that with what are you going to actually enjoy doing? What are you going to be able to consistently do? The biggest thing is to work out a plan or a schedule that's going to work for you and you're realistically going to be able to follow through. Most people with exercise shoot for doing far too much, far too quickly, and they can't get that consistency. So for example, they're like, I'm not working out at all. I want to start working out. I'm going to start doing like 4 or 5 hours of exercise a week. That is a huge jump. What I would suggest is instead get into a regular routine of doing 2 10-minute workouts a week or 3 10-minute workouts a week. Most people are like, I'm never going to get anywhere if I do that little. But here's the thing. You're going to start developing an actual behavioral pattern. Mentally, it's going to be easier to get yourself actually working out because your brain's going to be like, oh, it's 10 minutes. That's no big deal. Then once you get into a consistent routine and you do that for maybe it's a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long it takes you till you're at a point where you're like, I do my 3 10-minute workouts. It's no big deal. Then just shift it up a little bit. So go to 3 15-minute workouts and then slowly increase it this way. And that's the way you're going to get consistency, is by actually changing your behavior. So slowly increasing how much you're working out. The biggest mistake I see with this is people try to do far too much, far too quickly. If you are going to try to fit in doing 4, 5, 6 hours of exercise in a week, and you're not currently doing that, what you need to do is stop and think, what are the things I'm taking out of my schedule to allow me to have the time to do that? Most people don't do this. They're like, oh, I'll squeeze it in. Actually think about what are the 4 to 5, 6 hours of scheduled things I usually do that I'm going to take out. So in terms of exercise, now I'm going to go through and explain what are the most effective ways to lose weight. So the best types of exercises for losing weight are going to be higher intensity exercise. So if you're doing workouts that are of a higher intensity, you're going to burn out more energy. A lot of times people have confusion around this, and you hop on the treadmill or the elliptical at the gym and they have that little bar graph and it says fat burning zone, get your heart rate here. You're going to burn out less energy at that intensity. The most important thing when it comes to working out is burning more energy. The reason why, again, you're trying to get into that calorie deficit. So the more energy you burn out, the easier that's going to be to accomplish. So in terms of higher intensity exercises, this can be numerous different things. So you can have, some people call it HIIT training, so high intensity interval training, where essentially you're doing fast bouts of cardio activities followed by a quick short break, fast bout of cardio activity, quick short break, or sometimes they'll use active recoveries with those. Strength training, so lifting weights or doing body weight calisthenic exercises. These are the main focuses in terms of the most efficient ways to lose weight. Again, if you're not going to enjoy those workouts though, find something you are going to enjoy. So in terms of exercise or activity, what are you looking at? Well, in an ideal world, we'd love to have clients building up to 5 hours of physical activity in a week. A lot of our clients don't ever get there, and that's okay too. Again, figure out consistently what's going to work well for you. But you have some sort of target to be aiming towards, so you can slowly start building up to that 5 hour mark. In terms of efficiency. So for the first 5 hours of exercise, it would be great if people could get higher intensity exercises like the ones I'm mentioning. If you go onto our YouTube channel, we have tons of free workouts that walk you through things you can do right from home that fall into this category. After you've hit that 5 hours of activity, if you're looking to add in more, you can just do slow, steady state cardio. So picking any type of cardio activity. So that's all I'm going to cover in terms of exercise. I'm not going to make it too complicated or too complex because most people get paralysis by analysis. They want to get these perfect workouts and figure out exactly how to progress them and do this and do that. Instead, just start moving. Get moving consistently. What I want you to do is get moving in a way where you enjoy it and you're not putting yourself at a risk for injury, because those two things will lead to the most important thing with exercise: consistency. All right, step number 5 on our 5-step process to losing weight: how to adjust or speed up results. So a lot of people will start making changes and feel like results aren't coming quick enough. So first, do you have realistic expectations when it comes to weight loss? A lot of times when people are actually making real changes to their nutrition, to their lifestyle, they have unrealistic expectations. They have magazine cover expectations. Things like, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds in 10 days, or I'm gonna drop 20 pounds in 20 days. These are really challenging goals. Mass media has made it so most people don't actually understand where realistic weight loss goals are. So, what is a realistic weight loss goal? Again, I have a separate video on this one. If you want more information, that'll pop above my head. But I'll give you the quick version here. What are you ready to change about your nutrition, your lifestyle, and how you're exercising? Most people don't stop and identify this when they're figuring out, well, what's a realistic goal? Most people will just say, oh, losing 4 to 5 pounds a month is realistic, or losing 1 to 2 pounds a week is realistic. That's not necessarily realistic for you. So what's realistic in terms of weight loss is different for every single person. Most people have been told again, over and over again, that those are realistic targets. But I always ask people when they say that, realistic given what? So what are the actual actions and habits you have to follow through on to lose weight at that pace? Usually when I ask people this, they say, I don't know. So if you're not even sure what the actual actions are and what steps you have to take to lose weight at that pace, how can you determine if that's realistic for you? So I'm going to walk you through how to speed up results. But the way I want you to think about this is like, you know, those old balancing scales. So on one side, you have results. On the other side, you have what you're doing to get those results. So most people want to get results like this. But the problem is how much are they enjoying their nutrition, their lifestyle? So usually the quicker you get results, the less you enjoy the things you're doing to get those results. So it's like the heavy kid hopping off the teeter-totter. Inevitably, it flops the other way. And that's where people get off track with their diet. So in terms of speeding up results, you can always speed up results. But you want to look for that balancing point of, are you enjoying the things you're doing to get those results? First thing, get consistent with the first 4 steps of the process. Consistently start doing those things. Most people will start thinking that they're not getting results quick enough before they've really gone through those 4 steps. So again, if you're following through on all those things, you're consistently doing them and you're not getting results, go back to step number 2. Make small adjustments. So if you think you're eating to 80% full, you think you're getting really good and hungry, and you're not losing weight or not losing weight at the pace you'd like, start reducing food a little bit. So again, it doesn't have to be huge adjustments. Start decreasing by 2 to 4 bites. Start playing around with that, seeing, well, where is that lower limit in terms of how little food can I eat while still being reasonably hungry? Continue playing around and tweaking and reducing. If that's still not producing results at the speed you want, look at when you're indulging. Really start to figure out how many calories do I have coming in when I'm indulging? A lot of people will be consuming an amount of food in their normal, typical meals. They're at a good amount to lose weight, but then when they indulge, it's at such a large amount, it's pushing them out of that calorie deficit. Or they're not in a large enough calorie deficit to be happy with the results that they're getting. So again, really slow down and do that first. Let's say you're doing all of those things and you're still not losing weight. Then what I'd recommend you do is decrease 1 serving size of fats and 1 serving size of carbohydrates in a day. But make sure you're doing those first 4 steps. So are you actually getting the proper range of serving sizes? Are you actually getting those from whole foods 90+% of the time? Are you adjusting so that you're eating to 80% full every time you're eating? Are you eating slowly almost every time you're eating? Are you getting proper hunger levels every time you're eating? Are you adjusting those down to really make sure you're getting proper hunger levels? So practicing like we'd gone over, eating 2 to 4 bites less. Are you getting at least 5 hours of exercise per week? These are the key things. Before you think that you need to change anything else, go with those. If you're still not getting results the way you'd like, then what you can do is start decreasing what you're eating a little bit more. So with this, you could decrease down a serving size of fats, a serving size of carbohydrates in a day. Make sure you're hitting your upper limits for your lean protein and for your vegetables, or else you're gonna get really hungry very quickly. So the reality for most people who are gonna be looking to make changes, I can't stress this enough, they're not nailing those first 4 steps. So usually when we ask people, well, how's things going with your lean protein habit? The response almost all the time will be pretty good. So if you think you're doing pretty good, let's try to move that up to I'm doing excellent. So you're confident in saying, I am crushing this habit. Then if you are sure you're crushing your different habits 80 to 90% of the time, the next step, you want to actually track. Logging food, most people use this as a way to try to guilt or shame themselves into following through on the behaviors they want. Don't want that. That doesn't turn out well. Instead, you want to treat food logging like a science experiment where it's just data and information coming in that's going to help you to figure out what's going on. So most people are not very good at estimating how much food they're eating. So actually take a 1 to 2 week period and start measuring out everything you're eating and seeing how much you're getting. So at the end of the day, total up, well, how much fat, how much carbs, how much protein am I getting? How many vegetables am I getting? Go through your earlier serving sizes that I've given you and see, are you actually hitting those? If you're consistently tracking and you're making these adjustments and you're still not getting results, simply comment down below, let me know, and I'll help walk you through the further steps in terms of how to progress things. Again, you don't need to buy any new gimmick, you don't need any new product, any new magic cure. You just need to figure out what isn't working in the process for you. There just needs to be small tweaks. Doesn't usually need to be massive big overhauls. Small changes done consistently will make a huge difference. All right, so there you have my 5-step process for losing weight. Essentially, you have a free guide to weight loss where I've walked you through every single thing you need to know to lose weight. I've tried to cover as much as I can in as much detail as I can, or where more detail is needed, I've tried to provide you with the resources to help you do that. So hopefully you feel confident you have the tools. The biggest thing, I can't stress this enough, consistency. Focus on what you can actually implement in your day-to-day life. Leave all the shiny object syndrome there. Don't get caught up in the new fads, the new trends, the new supplements. Focus on basic habits, changing your behavior, getting consistent with that, enjoying the changes you're making. If you want to feel more confident and more comfortable inside of your own body, you have to actually enjoy the changes that you're making. So again, if you're still at this point, click the like button, click the subscribe button, and please share this video to help more people.